Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the panelists to have joined in and joined in well in time. And this is Mani from Karo, Sambhav, welcoming you all to this seventh episode of our season 3 of webinars. It's actually the 23rd in total. This is our season 3, so clearly it has been received quite well, and we've been moving on over the years. And this particular webinar will be talking about e-waste recycling, moving from challenges to solutions. And I can see that the team has kind of brought together a good set of panelists. And interestingly, when I looked at the panelists, I found that each of you is from a certain different area, which really constitute the pillars of the entire end-to-end e-waste recycling activity. So before I kind of go deeper into this, let me just quickly give an introduction of Karo Sambhav. I can see that there are quite a few regulars and there are quite a few new faces too in the audience. So just to kind of give you a sense of what Karo Sambhav is. Karo Sambhav is a company which is into the circular economy business. We are about 8 years old now, a little over 8 years old now. And we started off primarily as a PRO and to enable the entire e-waste movement. And over the years, we have graduated and successfully graduated from being just a PRO to being a full-fledged recycling partner. So we provide, from the e-waste perspective, we provide an end-to-end support to the collection as well as the recycling, as well as look at opportunities for usage of the secondary materials that are generated from the recycling. And as I talk about recycling, so let me just talk about the collection in particular. So we're present across the country. We have over 30 collection centers across the country. We have feet on the ground who are helping in the collection. We collect across channels, which is from homes, retailers, institutions, offices, etc., etc. As well as we also do collect from a select few formal aggregators. And I'm making a very, very strong classification here when I'm saying using the word formal aggregators. Typically, it is like mostly the informal sector, but here I'm making use of the word formal aggregators because we work with people who are clearly qualified into being more formalized into the system to adopt the right practices and who are providing material to recyclers such as us. When it comes to recycling, we have 3 recycling units. One in Modinagar near Ghaziabad, Madhya Pradesh, and the second one in Nasik. As well as and then we have a third one, which is primarily for refining the precious metals like gold and silver, copper, etc., from the PCBs. So such has been the scenario of our growth from being a plain PROs to providing an end-to-end service of collection, recycling, as well as going ahead to finding solutions for secondary materials that we generate out of our recycling. We are also working with a couple of institutions in kind of finding answers, finding solutions to parts and material which do not have for which we do not have the technology for recycling. And this technology may be available at a lab scale. We are working with institutions like IIT Roorkee, University of Leeds, to find answers to scale it up, especially for the rare earth materials in magnets, etc., and for other materials like indium. So the multiple streams that we are working on. And one of the things that I should definitely mention is about how we spend a lot of time and energy in building awareness. We do awareness in multiple ways. We do stakeholder awareness in different locations. We have done, I think, close to about 300 stakeholder awareness programs this year alone, various locations. In addition to that, we also do mobile van drives, and of course, we do such webinars each year. And when I'm talking about webinars, we should definitely thank sponsors like Apple, Dell Technologies, Canon India, Cisco, and Ericsson, who enable us to run these webinars and keep the awareness alive. So, and unless awareness is there, we're not going to have collection or responsible recycling happening. So it's very critical, and thanks to these partners, thanks to the sponsors we are able to keep these webinars going and keep building the awareness across the population, across the country. Now, coming specifically to the umbrella of recycling, and when I'm saying recycling, I'm not talking about just the physical act of recycling. The larger umbrella of recycling, I'm talking about end to end. We are looking at three major pillars. The primary pillar being collection. There are multiple challenges that one faces in the collection of material and solutions to fractions that are difficult to recycle. Either they are difficult to recycle, or as I was mentioning a little earlier, technologies to recycle these fractions do not exist practically anywhere on Earth. So, as I said, we are working and we are looking forward to working along with people who are already working in this field, who are already contributing to this field. In addition to that, one should also talk about policy. Now, when it comes to policy, the challenge that we have seen earlier is that the clarity on the policy and the clarity in the direction of the policy was not very clear. Now, at least it seems that the policy's direction is clear, but it is still evolving. I'm happy for the ways things have been put in place, the policy and the enabling tools in terms of the IT, the portal, etc., that's coming into place. But yet this needs to be stable. And if these policies are stable over a period of few years, that is when the system actually catches up and it can really deliver good results and meaningful results, so to speak, in the area. So one only hopes that the policies that have been put in place now will be stable, but we would like to hear from our panelists how one can expect this to go forward as we go forward here. So in that connect, as I said, these three pillars are critical when it comes to the larger umbrella of recycling as we speak. And we have a panel which is going to be talking to us about the three areas. And the panel will be coordinated by our own Shivangi. Shivangi has been with Karo Sambhav for over 4 years now, and she's a specialist in the implementation of EPR, the External Producer Responsibility, across waste streams, which is about e-waste, plastic, battery, as well as tires, etc. So she's experienced in working with the leading FMCG and other enterprises to design and implement systems for circular economy in the Indian context. Shivangi holds a Master's of Science degree in Environmental Studies and Research Management from Terry School of Advanced Studies. So before joining Karo, she worked in environmental consultancy services, and that's about Shivangi there. Now, let me talk about the panelists, and as you can see, I'm going to be reading out from the text I have, just to make sure that I get everything right. We have Dr. Deblina Dutta. Thank you, Dr. Dutta, for joining us on the panel today. Dr. Dutta is an environmental scientist specializing in sustainable waste management, e-waste recycling, and resource recovery. She's an assistant professor at SRM University in Andhra Pradesh. She has over 40 plus publications, wow, and over 2,000 citations, and leads research on rare earth metal recovery. She actively contributes to academia and editorial boards and environmental awareness initiatives. Welcome, Dr. Dutta. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
We also have Mr. Revant Vashist. Revant is an experienced professional working as an assistant manager in Strategic Alliance team at Chintan, an organization focused on environmental and social justice. With a background in environmental sciences and postgraduate degree from the London School of Economics and Political Science, Revant brings a wealth of knowledge to his work. Prior to joining Chintan, he worked as a consultant with the International Institute of Environment and Development on social security frameworks. Revant, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining us here.
Thanks a lot.
So we also have Ms. Anuradha. Anuradha Ji is a scientist and nodal officer for solid waste management, e-waste, and NGT matters for 14 years, actively collaborating with PROs to raise awareness among bulk consumers in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Thank you for joining us, Anuradha ji. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you,
I
sir.
now will hand the mic over to Shivangi, and all over to you, Shivangi. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mani. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I think Mani has done a great job setting the context of e-waste recycling and why it is complicated. It's complex not only in terms of the societal impact, where we have the informal sector involved in collection and recycling, a sector where the informal sector where the technologies that are being used might not be the best in class. The safety measures put in place might not be the best. A place where there are other social risks like child labor that are very, very prevalent. So from a societal point of view, e-waste recycling becomes a complex topic, but also from a technical point of view. Because electronics are a combination of multiple materials, and that makes it very, very tricky to understand how exactly do you go about recycling electronic waste at the scale that India needs, because India is the third largest generator of electronic waste in the world at this moment. So the kind of scale that India needs can only be brought about once we understand more about the technical challenges, about how policy can help smoothen those gaps, and how the social aspect of e-waste recycling does and will play a part in solving this problem going forward. On that note, actually, my first question goes to Dr. Dutta. Dr. Dutta, as Mani introduced, you have had a wealth of experience in e-waste recycling, right from the different technologies that are being used to the implementation of those technologies at a larger scale. So we would love to hear a bit more about your work and your areas of research. But my question to you would be about gaps in formal recycling. If you've observed any social, technological, or other gaps in the formal recycling infrastructure that we currently have in place. Over to you, Dr. Datta.
Okay, thank you so much, first of all, for providing me this opportunity to talk about my research work and to discuss about this electronic e-waste, basically. So, first of all, the e-waste, it is comprising of all the electronic as well as electrical equipment. So, means all the electrical equipments are also involved in this one, in e-waste. So that is the first thing. And next one is that I am working in this field from my PhD life. So I have done my PhD from IIT Kharagpur, and from there I am working with this electronic or electrical items. So the first thing which I will tell is that the awareness among the people, which is not means it is not proper among the people, local people, or the even means all the even educated people as well are not so much aware about this waste. So my thing is that I'm just collecting, my research work is that I am just collecting the waste materials like the printed circuit boards, the hard disks, like that. So from there, and the old mobile phones as well. And from that, by applying different processes like the technologies including hydrometallurgy, pyrometallurgy, these are the four technologies which everyone now is talking about for metal recovery. So I'm following this and recovering the metals from the PCBs or the printed circuit boards, mobile phones, etc. So this is my research work which I am working. Now coming to your second question. So the gap in the formal sector, formal sector, the main thing is that is the collection of the e-waste, which the for which the informal sectors are very much active in collecting the e-waste. So the main problem is that the collection of e-waste, and if the people are not at all aware about that, they have to just put their e-waste into what I will tell, a garbage bin or a specific type of bin, where they have to put. Instead of that, they are just dumping them in the soil or to the environment. So if that awareness first, in the first place, that awareness should be there for the people. Next one is that this collection that is from the informal sectors. Okay, if we are getting a bridge, if we can uh, put a bridge in between this informal sector and the formal sectors, then I think it will be a great idea to get the proper collection of e-waste across this country. I'm talking about India. So it will be very good that we will get the proper amount of e-waste which is getting generated at each part of the country, and it will be directly going to the recyclers or the formal sectors. So that is a main thing which I think is a very means there is a very big gap in this. Thank you.
Dr. Datta, a follow-up question on that regard, because you brought up a very good point about how far sometimes waste needs to travel to get to a recycling center. And I believe having more recycling centers or having more places which can reliably recycle waste would benefit, especially for collection and recycling from remote areas, say Northeast, say Jammu and Kashmir. So, specifically within e-waste recycling, do you find any gaps in knowledge for people who are recycling waste, whether it is they are just transitioning into formal recycling or they have been in formal recycling spaces? Do you see any gap in knowledge or in understanding of technology there? And what impact does it cause in how effectively e-waste is recycled?
Okay, the thing is that we know that the inorganic acids like the HNO3, the nitric acid, the strong acids, nitric acid, sulfuric acid, the aqua regia, they play a very important role if we go for very easy way of recovering materials or the metals from the e-waste. Okay, so but at the end of after recovering the metals, what we are doing with that acids, we are just dumping it again into the environment. So that is causing again the pollution, different levels of pollutions in the environment, and finally it is negatively affecting the human health. So the society is only getting affected, negatively affected by this thing, by their own activities. So I think that if we go for this organic acid or any eco environment friendly materials to recover the metals from the e-waste, maybe it will take some time, like for example this biometallurgy or in hydrometallurgy as well. Like I am following some environment friendly solvents which are very easily available in the market also, as well as it is taking time to get the recovered the metal, and maybe the purest form is not like 98%, 99%, but maybe 85%, 87% it is going, or maybe less than that also sometimes. So the use of these harsh chemicals will be very means very bad for the environment and human health. So if we can just follow, because and we know already know that from different studies that informal sectors are very easily doing all using these harsh chemicals. They are directly taking the metals from there, even burning of the electronic or electrical items, and directly they are getting the metals. But instead of that, if we are follow this environment friendly methods, and we can get it maybe for a more time, okay, a less purity, okay, in that form also if we can get, then I think it will be a great for our environment and for the society as well.
No, absolutely. Ma'am. I do wonder, just for the audience who is not aware, aqua regia is a very common solvent that is used to leach out precious metals like gold or silver from printed circuit boards. These are aqua regia is made of two of the the strongest acids that we know, and it's very, very corrosive. So it's corrosive to your hands, to your skin, but also to your eyes, to your nose. So for workers working with aqua regia, it's very important for steps to be taken to protect them from this. And steps are needed to be taken to neutralize this acid, both of which are not very commonly taken. And therefore, there's a lot of harm that happens to to human health and to environment because of this. One more aspect that I think, Dr. Dutta, you also highlighted a little bit was in all of your conversation, in all of our conversation, a lot of the time the conversation turns towards metals. So we are talking recovery of gold from printed circuit boards. We're talking recovery of copper from wires. But there are, I believe, also parts of e-waste which do not get recovered. Have you seen what is the usual course of action, whether the formal sector, whether the informal sector, for these less desirable fractions or fractions which don't immediately bring money, like a sale of metal would? So e-waste plastics, the display screens that we have in electronic products, in fractions like that. What has been your observation of the most common form of disposal for these?
For the formal sectors, I can tell that they are just dismantling the different parts of a e-waste. And for the plastics and for the glass, they are just giving it to the recyclers, glass recyclers or plastic recyclers. Okay, and very few formal recyclers, they are only, I think, making some useful things or properly managing the things. So that is one thing that they are doing with this. And e-waste is very heterogeneous in nature. That is, it contains different types of metals and in different concentration or different amount. Okay, so which amount is very less, like the PCBs, the gold in PCBs, it is very present in very less amount or less concentration. So recovery of that is a huge challenge. But still, if we are but it is not as much as challenge for protecting the environment. So that's why if we are thinking about the environment, as I am an environmentalist first. So as I am just taking this one that I have to protect or safeguard my environment, then it is my duty to do it. So if the formal sectors are also doing, some formal sectors, yes, they are, of course, they are doing, they are trying to recover each and everything and follow this zero waste concept or the circular economy concept. And it is a good thing for us.
Thank you, Dr. Dutta. I think my last question would be regarding policy, because for any technical or social change, policy plays a huge role. So are there any policy recommendations or any policy steps that you think would help immediately in alleviating and solving some of the immediate challenges?
India, the policy which India already has or implemented, I think it is very good. The policy structure-wise is very good. But the problem is the final implementation in this across this country. That is a challenge for the government, because even us also, even if we are talking about the people, general people. So if someone's mobile phone is broken, then he or she will just dump it in the dustbin. And if it is in fine, it is in okay manner, then they will have a new phone in exchange of that. But if me, means I, as a scientist, I am going and asking for this mobile phone, the same mobile phones that you are done with that mobile phone, you are buying a new one, so give me the old one. They will not give, because instead they will ask for maybe some benefit, that you have to pay money for that, because in exchange offer we are getting some discounts or like that. So this implementation, take back policy, it is there. EPR, extended producer responsibility, it is there. So the policy is fine, there is no issue in the policy, but the proper implementation or the people are not aware of about all these things. EPR, many people don't know even what do you mean by this EPR. Take back policy, many companies are doing, many are not doing. So it is a problem for the customers that after when your washing machine or any of the electrical appliances, when they are getting retarded or after their shelf life, we are just putting it in the dustbin, or we are just selling it on kg basis or
That's
something
very
like
true. I think it's a learned behavior that slowly needs to
Yes.
go away.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Datta. Actually, my
you,
next
thank you.
question is to Anuradha ma'am, because Dr. Datta brought up extended producer responsibility and how the policy framework in India is sort of in a transition phase. So, Anuradha ma'am, I have a question to you about how the implementation of the new e-waste management rules has been for you. Because there have been a lot of changes across the years in e-waste management rules. So we wanted to learn about how that has affected the work that you are doing in Jammu.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank Shivangi and the Karo Sambhav team to give me an opportunity to speak on this during the webinar. New rules are actually very tricky, in fact, to understand, and we being a regulatory authority also finding a lots of difficulty at various levels that how to implement these rules at various levels. Because, for example, in UT like J&K, we don't have producers, we don't have recyclers even. So there is a lots of gap in between to understand that how to get the things implemented at these levels. Because there is no recycler, and how do we get the even collection data? So we are just doing our part on the basis of the directions as and when received from CPCB. Like there are very very negligible number of producers, I can say, and in fact they are importers, 2 to 3 importers only. So I would say that in UTR states where this is the situation, so it becomes very difficult to implement the rules on the ground. Basically, at the level of regulatory authority, how do we in fact carry out inventorization part? So there are so many challenges that we are facing.
Actually, on that note, ma'am, could you expand a little bit more about the inventorization? Because I believe as a pollution control board, the data regarding how much waste is generated in the territory, how much collection is happening and recycling is happening would be very, very vital. So if you could elaborate a bit more about that.
Of course, in fact, whenever we interact with, there are meetings with CPCP authorities also, we put up this point that as far as inventorization is concerned, when the methodology is based on the sales data is to be provided by the producers. But in the rules or in the guidelines, there with the state PCBs or PCCs, they don't have any direct access to the producers. We can't ask even them for the sales data. Then how it will be possible for us to carry out inventorization first of all? So either we will have to look for an alternative methodology, alternative way to inventorize the e-waste. Else, when there are even no recyclers that I have told you in J&K. So there is, you can expect that there is totally informal sector who is working, and in fact, we get the feedback from the market survey that the informal market that is very much active in Delhi area, they collect the e-waste from the ground level themselves in J&K. So I don't know how to get the information regarding the collection of the e-waste, because neither we can assess the producers nor we can assess the recyclers who are working on pan-India basis that how much e-waste they have collected from the states or duties like ours. So this is very challenging issue. We are not in a position to estimate that what must have been the e-waste generation over there and how much e-waste must have been collected by the recyclers all across the country.
Absolutely. And I would think that even having this access to this data set helps anyone understands what the hotspots for generation of electronic waste or accumulation of electronic waste are. So they're also very important for any recycler who's thinking of putting up a recycling unit in Jammu to have that information to be able to decide where to put their recycling unit. Otherwise, if you put them too far away, your cost of getting material to yourself just increases.
Yeah, yeah, of course, many recyclers, they face this difficulty because they don't have a database that what would be the source, how much raw material they will be getting for recycling facility, and whether it will be a successful facility or not if they don't get the sufficient amount raw material for their facility. So we need a solution to, in fact, actually this problem, that how to seek this data. It is only the CPCB who can devise some policy that how the recyclers working in various parts of the country who collect e-waste from various states are these UTs, they can if share the data with the respective states or UTs that this much e-waste has been collected from there. Because I don't know, because under the EPR in the rules, I think so that producers must have been told that it is not that they complete their targets only by collecting the e-waste from a particular state or EUT. So if they are selling their product in all of the states or UTs on pan-India basis, then why not the collection from all the states or bases? That should be reflected in their, I think, or annual returns.
Yes, that's very true, ma'am. Are there any policy recommendations that you believe, apart from policy directed towards data accumulation, that you believe will help pollution control committees and pollution control boards in this manner?
I think in the earlier rules, we were having a provision that bulk consumers shall file their annual returns. So that was okay. I don't know why it has been deleted now, but it was good to have at least a little bit information about what quantity of e-waste is lying stored with the bulk consumers in our state or IoT. And secondly, I think at my level that there should be a policy for e-waste disposal by the bulk consumers, because that is a challenge we are facing, and we get questions from many government departments that they keep on lingering this disposal process for years in the absence of a disposal policy. So if we can have a centralized policy for the disposal of e-waste by the bulk consumers, that can help in an easy disposal by the bulk consumers.
Absolutely, ma'am. And for bulk consumers, something else that's very important is that they're an excellent source of a lot of waste, which has not gone into the informal sector in one place. So even as recyclers or people who are doing collection, it is very important for us also to be able to reach out to bulk consumers and to be able to collect from them, because if that waste goes into informal sector, then that's a lot of waste and a lot of material that you have lost.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Revant, actually, my next question is to you. And this is specifically regarding the informal side of e-waste recycling. We wanted to know a bit more about what specific, when we say informality in the e-waste recycling sector, what does that mean, and what does formalizing them mean tangibly? Like, what, if I say I'm formalizing an e-waste recycler, what does that tangibly mean?
Okay, so the informal sector, basically, like the name suggests, it's talking about the informal waste workers who are not registered. They're not covered under any social protection scheme, any social protection program. They often lack ID cards as well, Aadhaar card. They don't have that. They're not registered on e-Shram portals. And oftentimes, they also have to deal with the informal market. So the problem with that, with the informal market, is that although the price that if you sell to an informal buyer, it might be higher compared to the formal market, but then you also have the angle of middlemen as well, who potentially could dupe you. They could potentially, promise you, for example, it's a 40 rupees, but by the end of the day, you might not get even 5 rupees. And when we talk about formalizing the informal waste workers, so that basically means that they are in a proper designated system. They have ID cards. They are registered on e-Shram portals. They have access to social security programs such as the Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana and all of that. So again, they deal with the formal side of the market. They have regulated work hours. They have regulated salary, fixed salary. So that's what we mean by the formal sector versus the informal sector. So we can say that accountability, it's more in the formal sector, whereas in the informal sector, there's no possible method to track how much waste comes in, how much is actually being recycled, and how many waste workers there are. Plus, an added benefit of the formal sector is that you also get health benefits. For example, in Chintan, we have an MRF at Sakhira, and we provide tetanus shots to the workers that work under our supervision every 3 months, because of course they're handling waste, so they often get cuts and all, and because of that, we to prevent any kind of contamination or infection, we give them tetanus shots. So basically, in formal sector, you have a sense of security. You are protected under different benefits, social security programs, and all of that. So that's what formalizing the informal sector means.
Thank you, Revant. It is very important, as I said at the start of this webinar, that the scale at which India needs recycling infrastructure to be built, you do need to convert. You do need to bring the informal sector into the fold. And I think actually even not just from a social perspective, but also from the access to technology, both in terms of whether they have the finance to set up that technology, and also from a perspective of knowledge to set up that technology. I believe that gap also is very important to fill. Dr. Dutta, do you have any experience in working with the informal sector and specifically on their access to what technologies they should or should not be deploying?
No, it's sorry to say, but yes, I was very interested in visiting those places, but we were not allowed to go to visit that places, because they generally, if they get to know that you are going and you are surveying their work, you are going to know that how they are doing, what they are doing, they will not allow you. So I have first we were interested in that thing, but now it is like no, we cannot go, we cannot visit those places, and we cannot have those data or anything like that.
Do you encounter the same level of resistance if you're, for example, visiting a formal recycler, or is it pretty different? There's more transparency.
Transparency, I will not tell that every formal recyclers have the transparency, because many recyclers, they have their office on in one place, and their original work thing, that is, or the factory industry, it is in the another place. So some they will allow you to visit to see, and only you can see the dismantling portion. After that, what they are doing, how they are doing, it is they are not showing that.
Okay.
So that is a thing.
Anuradha ma'am, following up on that, from the informal sector, do you feel a same level of resistance when it comes to the informal sector in Jammu towards just any sort of formalization, or do you feel that the informal sector in Jammu is a lot more keen to become formal? They just need some guidance.
Yeah, of course, in formal sector, they want to collect the e-waste, but they are not in a position, they don't understand how to get it done. Because in UT, like J&K, we don't have, in fact, hotspots of e-waste collection. There are just very small, informal sector working at small scale. They have small shops like that. So they are collecting mixed waste. It's not that there are vendors who are collecting only waste at a large scale. So there are mixed waste aggregators only who are collecting e-waste. There may be few who are collecting a huge quantity, and there are some who are collecting very small quantities. So there are not identified hotspots over there. But the informal sector faces difficulty because we advise them, we educate them, sensitize them that you are not allowed to collect e-waste until and unless you don't get formalized or you don't get it licensing with some authorized recyclers. Again, we face problem that there is no recycler in J&K. How do we give them a direction that you go and get in contact with that recycler? So these are the challenges we are facing over there, that even we sensitize the informal sector on one hand, But secondly, we are not able to show them the path where to go. So there is a challenge.
No, absolutely, that would be a big challenge because that plays a huge part in how sustainable it is financially for them at all, honestly, because the further they have to send their waste, it becomes almost illogical in that scenario. But thank you, Anuradha ma'am. Revant, do you believe there are certain policy interventions or certain policies that could incentivize this formalization and in helping also helping recyclers stay in that? So, if there are any policy
Yeah,
incentives?
yeah. So again, the social security benefits along with the health benefits, I do feel that that helps tremendously because in the informal sector, they often have to deal with the medical expenses on their own. And with just a bit of earning, either they have the option of taking care of their families, their livelihood, their food, or they have the option of taking care of their health. So of course that angle helps as well. But I do feel that EPR is a potential um, area of focus that we could work on. So, for example, like I said, in the informal market and the formal market, there's a gap between the rates offered. So there could be a potential changes in the EPR in which they have to, under their EPR, the organizations, the producers, they have to take care of, they have to basically equalize the difference between the rates offered. So that I think could be a pretty big thing for the informal waste workers to formalize themselves because they're earning well now and they get the added benefits of health security and social security programs.
Are there any specific challenges that you have seen informal sector workers face after they have been formalized? One challenge, I believe Anuradha ma'am had pointed out, was their access to formal recyclers. So their ability to send to formal recyclers is lesser in certain areas if they don't have that recycler available anywhere nearby. But apart from that, are there any other challenges that you have seen formalized recyclers face, who have transitioned from an informal way of working to a formal way of working?
Me personally, I think what Anuradha ji suggested, that was one of the most prominent challenges that I've seen. I've seen challenges for the transitioning, so that like the biggest issue that I've seen for the informal workers with the informal workers is the issue of credibility because they are such a marginalized community that if you suddenly come to their area and tell them that, okay, we are here to help you, they don't usually believe you. But after being formalized, I've not seen any other challenge personally.
Okay, that's actually good because that gives us a pathway of slowly building this infrastructure as well out in India. And currently we are talking like still larger cities, but the more we go down to smaller cities, the more important it is that this infra is very robust. One last question, Revant, is regarding the hazardous fractions, because as we had pointed out earlier, there are e-waste being heterogeneous, there are fractions of e-waste which are hazardous in nature, not just in terms of, their processing is hazardous. The example that Dr. Dutta had given, that for printed circuit boards, that we dip them into aqua regia and that is hazardous. But some fractions themselves are hazardous, whether it is the CFC gases in coolants, whether it is the foam, which is flame retardant. So how have you seen the sector deal with these hazardous fractions? What's the most common path for them?
The waste workers we've worked with, the main issue that they tackled was after being formalized, of course, that they didn't have the proper means to recycle. Of course, the bigger things such as, like you said, coolants and all, they didn't have the knowledge, the know-how, or the technology for that. The best that they could do was recycle, for example, let's say wires. So what I've come across is that to get the aluminium wire or the wire inside that's covered by the rubber coating, they just burnt that. So in a formal setting, of course, you have a proper equipment, you have the proper knowledge of how to extract the material resources. But on a more specific field, I think I have not experienced anything.
No, this is something actually very beautiful about India as well. We have so much human resource that given the right amount of knowledge, the right amount of financing, there's no stoppage to what can be accomplished. It is the point of getting that knowledge and financing across for the setup to be done, because these technologies are also not cheap, right? Some of these technologies, I think Dr. Dutta would attest to that, do take some level of investment to be able to be built at a good scale. So that remains a gap for a lot of people, actually. Okay. So I have one more question, Revant. Like, I believe Chintan also does collection directly as well. So what have been your experiences with recyclers? Good, bad, middle?
Till now, I think so. Chintan has worked with recyclers for I think over a decade now. So we've established pretty decent trust. So during my time, we've had good experiences only. But initially, of course, the issue was of credibility. That okay, what's this NGO that suddenly approached us and they're trying to integrate the informal workers and all of that. So initially, again, the main problem was to establish ourselves as someone who actually wants to help them. But recently, it's been a pretty smooth sail.
That's excellent to hear. Um, I- I'll actually open the floor for the panelist if any panelist has a question to the other. Otherwise, I think this was an excellent discussion. Of course, e-waste recycling is a very complex topic from a policy perspective, Anuradha ma'am, from a technical perspective, from a community perspective. But something that has come out very commonly has been that you need dedicated effort in converting informal sector to the formal sector, but you also need information. You need a deep level of research being done into how do you scale these technologies up, and you need to give enough tools to your local policy enforcers, your pollution control boards, for them to be able to implement in their states. But I'll open the floor to the panelists if you have any questions for each other. Okay, excellent then. If I'll also open the floor to any of the attendees if they have any questions for any of the panelists. We'll wait for a couple of minutes so that any of the attendees could write down their questions in the chat box. If not, we would love to hear the panelists' closing remarks. So just give us a couple of minutes. We'll see if there are any questions, further questions. I have a lot of questions, so I do believe I'll be asking those to the panelists later on. But if anyone else also has questions. It doesn't seem so. So let us then move on to closing remarks. Dr. Datta, if you could start us off like you started in the beginning of this webinar, we would love to hear your closing remarks.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for this wonderful session with the other panelists. Okay, and another thing is that Karo Sambhav, I have heard about them and they are doing a very good job. I have also heard about Chintan also, but I am not so much, means I don't know so much about that. So I will love to just see the website first and then maybe we can have some collaboration also. Okay, if you are working in this informal sectors, then I would be very helpful or love to do work with you. And same for Anuradha ma'am as well, that she has also explained very clearly about this EPS system and the informal sectors, formal sectors. And yes, this is a very wonderful thing, wonderful discussion about this electronic waste or e-waste, not electronic waste. I will not tell. It is like electrical and electronic. So it combined it is e-waste. So and Karo Sambhav, very much you are putting very much effort for this one So through this webinar, hopefully many people will be aware about all these things. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dutta. But actually, we did ask, someone did ask a question in the chat box. So before we move on to the other speakers, if you could take a minute, Moksha is asking, what are the limitations of the current e-waste recycling technologies and how do you believe we can improve on them?
Limitations is like limitations will include many things. So first, if we are going for these technologies, when I'm doing this hydrometallurgy or any of the technologies I'm doing for metal recovery, there are different types of limitations. First, when we are proceeding with, let's say, hydrometallurgy, the simple one. So it has different steps in it. So whenever I am going for this leaching, which is the first step in hydrometallurgy, then we are getting different limitations that there is very less percentage of metals which are getting dissolved in the solvent. After that, when it is coming to the next one, that is solvent extraction and then electrowinning or evaporation, other thing, then it is like that the the amount we know that it is there in that PCB board or motherboard or anything, the amount which is present, that is not coming completely. So that is a challenge or that is a limitations where we are working on to clear it out, because it is not possible that 100% metals we can recover. But yes, the maximum we are trying to do it, to recover it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Datta. Anuradha ma'am, on to you. I'll hand off the mic to you. We would love to hear your closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Shivangi. It was really a wonderful experience to hear from all the panelists over here. And I would thank Karo Sambhav. And I will appreciate the efforts of Karo Sambhav to regularly organize such webinars so that we can come on a common dais to have such interactions and to know better about the solutions. How can we move forward and how can we mitigate the challenges that we are facing. And I hope that Karo Sambhav will also help us in forwarding these challenges to the concerned authorities at the higher levels, so that we can, at the end, we can have a really some solution at our disposal, so that we can work in an efficient manner towards the implementation of the rules. And we can have a better collection of the e-waste, as well as we can inventorize it. So we can have access to this data at the helm of recyclers or at the helm of producers. It can be forwarded us from a centralized portal to the concerned states or UTs, so that we can at least know about what is the status of collection from our UTs. That is the biggest challenges that we are facing over there. Thank you, Karo Sambhav team. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Revant, on to you. We'd love to hear your remarks.
I would also like to thank the Karo Sambhav team. By the way, I love the doomsday clock that you have on the website about this much time we have left. But yeah, I would like to, I agree with the Deblina ma'am as well, that we also have to play our role as well. So rather than just dump the waste, we have to manage it correctly. And yeah, so I think individual practices can lead to a social norm in which, when regularly practiced, I feel will help us develop a pretty good civic sense, which is what I feel that we need to have a bit more in India. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Revant. It is a very, very important, pertinent topic. It is a very complex topic as well, as I think all of the panelists have, in one form or the other, demonstrated from a policy perspective, social perspective, technological perspective. E-waste is a very, very interesting industry to get into. So it is going to take a group effort. Even our efforts have been to slowly progress whatever change that we can make. I would like to thank once again to all our panelists for giving their precious time to our webinar. Thank you, Mani, for the introduction that you had given. And I'd also like to thank our sponsors, Apple, Dell Technologies, Canon India, Cisco, and Ericsson. for enabling us to carry out this webinar. I'd like to wish everyone a very, very good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.